Cunningham here. Scott Wheeler is the executive director of the National Republican Trust, which is the number 3 conservative Republican PAC in America. He's a former TV producer and journalist, and also is a writer focusing on domestic and international security issues. And we're here to talk about Barack Hussein Obama's Safe School Czar. And Scott Wheeler, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show.
Hey, great to be with you, Bill.
Well, tell me about the Safe School Czar, and tell me about the story that goes back to 1988 and the 15-year-old boy.
Well, that is one where when he was a teacher, he had a student come into his office and explain to him that he had picked up or had met a man. This is a 15-year-old boy, had met a man in a bus station and gone home with him. And Jennings' remark to the boy was not to call the police or do anything that might protect the child from further molestation or exploitation, but to say, I hope you used protection.
And so basically when Kevin Jennings, the Safe School Czar, now with Obama about 20 years ago, was a teacher himself, a 15-year-old boy approached Kevin Jennings and told him that he was actively having a homosexual relationship with a much older man. And instead of Kevin Jennings turning him in or talking to his parents, he told him to use condoms.
Yes. And that's not where it ends. He also, there was a book written called Queering Elementary Education.
Say that again, queering?
Queering, yes. Not queering like inquiring, but queering, Q-U, the slang word for gay. Queering Elementary Education, Advancing the Dialogue about Sexualities and Schooling, which includes essays by radical gay rights activists who believe adults and children must be taught to think, quote, think queerly, unquote. In one such essay written by a lesbian mother, the author boasts of teaching her 7-year-old daughter to masturbate and declares that, quote, queerly raised, unquote, children are agents using strategies of adaptation, negotiation, resistance, and subversion, unquote. This is a book that Kevin Jennings wrote the foreword to.
So, wait a minute. The Safe School Czar wrote the foreword to a book instructing America's youth how to accept and practice the homosexual lifestyle.
Correct. That's exactly right.
And then when he discovered crimes being committed against children by older perverted men, he incentivizes the behavior by encouraging the kids to make sure condoms are used on them.
Yes, that is correct. And unsurprisingly, Weather Underground terrorist Bill Ayers also endorsed the book and has a quote prominently featured on the back cover of the same book. You would absolutely. You're probably thinking we're making this.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this is a Republican hit job on Barack Hussein Obama, much like Van Jones, the black nationalist and the communist, was finally discovered, and then he quit voluntarily under pressure. This Kevin Jones, it's one thing to be a communist. That's not good, but, you know, what the heck. But it's another thing to be the Safe School Czar, writing forewords to book about how children could become perverted and how young children could be brutalized by older men without reporting it to authorities. And this guy's in charge of what?
He's in charge of making sure the schools are safe. A guy you would not want delivering milk to the school is in charge of making sure the schools are safe. You would not, you couldn't make this stuff up. And you couldn't write this as a fiction. No one would have believed it if you wrote this 10 years ago, that in 10 years the President of the United States would have people unaccountable to Congress, operating with multi-billion-dollar budgets. And it's almost as though, Bill, as I've told others, when you look at when writing this book with Peter Leitner, we discovered that it was almost as though he was finding people who would be the exact opposite of someone you would want doing the job to put them in that position. You have a person with a $60 billion budget who has a recent shoplifting charge on their record, pleaded guilty to shoplifting. You have the drug czar whose son had 2 drug convictions. It's almost as though they look for people who would not be able to do the job they're putting them into.
How about Timothy Geithner, the Secretary of the Treasury, head of the IRS, who didn't pay taxes?
Didn't pay his taxes. Yes, it's almost as though they're playing some kind of sick joke on the nation. I mean, that sounds so cynical, but my gosh, how else do you explain this?
Well,
how else can you look at this and say, well, it must make sense at some level? I'm sorry, it doesn't at any level.
Well, Scott Wheeler, the other thing this calls out for is the whole czar connection. Right now, Obama has about 38 or 40 czars. These guys and girls never go through the confirmation process. They're never investigated. They're never vetted. They're simply appointed by Valerie Jarrett or Barack Hussein Obama or Joe Biden or Rahm Emanuel or David Axelrod or one of the other members of the Chicago mob now running the White House. And so this comes out when the Democrats will not do any investigations on their own. It comes out because conservative groups say, wait a minute, should we have a safe school czar advocating pedophilism? Should we have a Greens job czar, Van Jones, who's a communist? Should we have a Secretary of the Treasury, head of the IRS, who doesn't pay any income taxes? Should we have Cass Sunstein, who wants to give lawyers to animals before they're slaughtered at pig farms? These are the individuals in charge of daily aspects of American life, and they are the most radical elements, and the media largely ignores it. Can you imagine if George Bush had a safe school czar who advocated pedophilism? How big a story would that have been?
Oh, it would be huge. I mean, you could not, or if his IRS or if his Secretary of the Treasury was not smart enough to cheat on his taxes the right way and did it just cheated on them instead of being clever and using loopholes. I mean, for crying out loud, maybe if Geithner had been caught using very sophisticated loopholes to avoid paying taxes, you could say, well, maybe he's a good guy for that job. Maybe he'll find other people cheating. But you can't even say that. The guy was too stupid to cheat on his taxes the right way. He just didn't pay them.
You know, following the Hollywood left angle of Roman Polanski and others defending bad acts as long as you're rich and powerful or famous, CNN a day or two ago, as part of their briefing room, had a guy saying, well, it was consensual sex. The 15-year-old boy did have consensual sex with a 35-year-old man. And so if you're a Hollywood leftist, if you're Roman Polanski, you can anally rape a 13-year-old girl, and it's acceptable because you make good movies. And in this case, if you're the safe school czar, Kevin Jennings, you can advocate pedophilism as long as you're a liberal appointed by Obama and you're in charge of safe schools. It's almost as if they find the opposite of what they want. And now the media and Democrats seek to justify this behavior by saying it was consensual. The 13-year-old girl who consented to sex with Roman Polanski was drugged with Quaaludes. She was given alcohol. She was anally and vaginally raped by Roman Polanski. And now Deborah Winger and other Hollywood lefties are defending the behavior because it happened, after all, 31 years ago. And now on CNN, they're defending the behavior of Kevin Jennings by saying, well, the 15-year-old consented. What world am I living in?
It is. That's why I say you could not make this. You could not have written this as fiction 10 years ago. It would have been everyone would have rejected it whole as out of hand and too kooky to be anything close to reality. And yet here we are. It's like a sick joke being played on the American people, and you wonder when does this end, and when do people reclaim the media from the foolish radicals who think this is worth defending.
Well, after all, the 15-year-old consented, and the 13-year-old girl consented with Roman Polanski because she was drugged.
Did the text messages that Mark Foley was sending to the 17-year-old Page, did he consent to receiving the text message? The Democrats drummed him out of Congress, and rightfully so, drummed him out of Congress, and yet here we are in a whole, just 3 years later, 2 years later, 3 years later, later, and someone who like Kevin Jennings is in charge of protecting schools.
And didn't Kevin Jennings also had admitted illegal drug use? He's the safe school czar.
Yes, those are his better qualifications for office. The fact that he was only a drug user, and I think he has actually admitted that drug use is bad.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah, you can be relieved there that at least he's not advocating giving the children drugs before they molest them. I guess is the one redeeming thing.
Well, as far as the extremist czars in charge of many aspects of American life, who's next? Who's coming out? So far, Van Jones is done. I can't imagine Kevin Jennings surviving much longer. Who's next?